here to view or edit, and we're live. Wow, that happened instantaneously. So, so here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. I've known Joe for many years. If you've been following me here at Castos, you know that Joe has been on the Audience podcast with me before. Maybe even have done a YouTube live stream. Anyway, the point is, early this morning, I wake up. I have my morning coffee, sitting there on my deck, sipping my lukewarm coffee, and I see Joe saying things like, I'm gonna show Matt up on my live stream skills. And yes, he has, because I scrambled, I used his affiliate link, I bought Ecamm. I'm like, I'm gonna show Joe, and then I had no idea how to use it once once I got into it. Because Joe, it's like a being in a fighter F-16 fighter pilot cockpit. There's so many things to look at in Ecamm.
Yeah, if you were able to attend my live stream, you would know that I've been using it for like a year, and I like grossly underuse it. Quick question: did you use the code July 30? Use my
I did.
You did? Excellent. That's good.
Was I not supposed to do that?
No. You were definitely supposed to. I wanted to make sure you got your discount. Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Excellent.
Joe Casabona, everybody, casabona.org. Joe Casabona, he helps podcasters, and we're going to talk a lot about that today. We're going to talk about this pivot thing. You also tweeted out something earlier today where somebody knocked on your door. You're a recovering web developer, and they said, hey, we want to build a website. Do you want to do that with us still? And you said no. So I want to talk about like all of these pivots happening. What's the best place for folks to go to see the work that you do and listen to your shows and get connected to you as somebody who helps podcasters?
Yeah, I think the best place is casabona.org, as you said, because that's where links to all of my stuff is. My mailing list opt-in is right there, and my podcast and my online courses, all kind of there over at casabona.org. See, if I was good, I'd have the overlay ready on my end to be like, go there.
Now, you also running Ecamm Live in tandem right now?
Yeah. So the cool thing about Ecamm Live is that it creates a virtual camera on your computer. So instead of using just the regular camera as your source, you can use Ecamm Live, and then you have access to like, this is probably going to look terrible because of the way everything is split, but I can switch scenes pretty easily and add that lower third stuff. And so I have the YouTube stream up on a separate reference and muted, so I'll know how that looks. And then I'll position my the URL here appropriately.
Let's start with that. Let's start with just like video and live streaming in general. Over the last, I don't know, 6 months, or definitely a year, but definitely the last 6 months, we're hearing just so many podcasters talking about, you have to have video, you have to be on YouTube, you have to be on TikTok, you have to do Reels, you have to do live stream. You've been doing live streaming consistently for a while. What's your take on video? Are you getting more into video and live streaming? Is that part of your strategy? Do you push that on to your own customers to say, if you're going to do audio, you got to do video at the same time?
Yeah, I'm going to move this now because it's been up long enough. But yeah, for podcasting specifically, for a long time, I was like, no, you don't need video. But now, like, YouTube is getting more into video. I read something in Pod News this morning that was like, you need to get your podcast on TikTok. So I'm like, do I have to look into that now? And just increasingly, video has become a more integral part of podcasting, I think, which is something you've been saying for a while. Credit to you. And then as far as other video goes, I've been making video courses for a long time now. I've been live streaming pretty regularly since the pandemic, taking small breaks here for the birth of my second and third children. But I'm getting back into that now. So video has always been a really integral part of what I do. I'm good at talking, and I'm good at talking off the cuff. And so I'm just very comfortable there, especially when I want to say something quickly and not kind of sweat the words as much as get the ideas out, right? With writing, I'm a very good first draft writer, and then somebody else needs to make that better. With video or audio content, I'm pretty good at expressing myself kind of off the cuff.
One of the big topics that I'm always uh, talking about or discussing, we're working on a pretty big piece for the audience podcast, Stuart and I, my producer, and there's always like this thing about centralized versus decentralized in podcasting. Boy, wouldn't it be great if Spotify had the same sort of like search chops and algorithm chops as like a YouTube does for video, and podcasters could be found, which means they'd make more money, blah, 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 blah. The challenge is I see a lot of YouTubers, which blows my mind. They create, you and I have both been on YouTube for a while creating different types of content, but I see, man, like I follow photographers, videographers who are creating like real storytelling through the art of cinematography, really struggle with the algorithm, right? That I feel like a lot of podcasters want so that they can get found, but then realize that they become beholden to that algorithm. You and I joke all the time. I call them stupid YouTube thumbnails, and including myself, like smiling for the camera and like doing all these hand gestures, right? There's that. I see YouTubers switch their thumbnails if it's not performing well within like the first 7.5 minutes. If there's not a certain view count happening, I see YouTubers get depressed and really burned out. What's your take on like wanting this algorithm that you live and die by it on YouTube? Do you want that same thing in the podcasting space?
It's such a double-edged sword, right? Like there's the statistic that like 80% of people will watch a YouTube video based on the thumbnail and title, which just like hurts, right? That's like telling Ford, oh, the only reason, not Ford, let's pick a better. That's like telling Toyota, the only reason I bought your car is because I like silver or whatever, right? But you do need to grab that attention. So like the title and the thumbnail are the things that do that. The title and the thumbnail is not what keeps them watching. So you do need to bow to the algorithm a little bit on YouTube. The best algorithm we have for podcasting right now is Google, right? And so I've been advising my students and my coaching clients, write good titles and descriptions for Google, right? Because your podcast is on the internet. There's not a singular place where like 90% of podcast content gets consumed. It's pretty evenly split right now between like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and then like a bevy of other. Amazon Music is probably making headway, and then a bunch of other independent apps, right? YouTube doesn't have that. YouTube was an early enough mover that it basically created the video content space, essentially. Whereas podcasting was born out of RSS. So I guess the question, do I want that? Like almost a little bit, because I want more discoverability for more podcasters. But we kind of have it with Google. And if you play the Google game a little bit and then point people to an appropriate place to listen to your podcast, it's a couple more steps, but now you have a captive audience instead of, oh, they're going to listen to one episode and then get recommended Joe Rogan or get recommended The Daily, right? Whereas on YouTube, it's like, oh, they watched my video and then YouTube decided that instead of the next video I want them to watch isn't good enough, so they recommended some other YouTuber.
Yeah, for sure. Like it is a good and bad thing. We're still sitting on the fence of what the heck YouTube is actually going to do with podcasting. They showed up at not Podcast Movement, the one of the last big ones. I think it was in the UK where Google showed up. There was like this leaked YouTube slide deck that Cridlin covered on Pod News, all hinting at there's going to be this podcast thing happening. I mean, my guess, let's just play the conspiracy or the theorist right now. My guess is that they will allow you to put playlists, maybe only one playlist from your YouTube channel that can also be subscribed to in Google Music is probably what I think they would do. Like I think they would try to tie those two worlds together because that's like the same Spotify play. It's like you get Spotify Premium, you can listen to
Right.
podcasts. I mean, you can listen to podcasts anyway for free, but I think what they'll try to do is like, hey, upgrade to either Google Music or whatever they call it independently, and then YouTube Premium, which I'm happy to pay for to get rid of YouTube ads. But I also get Google Music with it. So I think that's what they'll do is they'll merge the two products. Do you have any theories of what they might do for podcasting?
Yeah, I think so. I came across I must be subscribed to like some YouTube, like official YouTube content creators channel because I came across this video and they had some recommendations on that, right? And one was like have a playlist for all of your episodes and then have a playlist for clips, right? And there should be like a dedicated channel for your YouTube channel. Which I was happy to hear because that's what I'm doing for my show. But I think you're right, right? YouTube or Google, like they've been leaving breadcrumbs for this move towards audio only, right? I mean, first of all, their like project plan is so capricious, like they'll just start and kill projects. And so like originally they had like Google Music and then like YouTube Red or whatever, right? And so like all of that was super confusing. They've consolidated that now, right? They have YouTube Music, which is a music app where you can listen to music or YouTube videos without the video playing. This is actually this is so dumb. This is my preferred method for playing the drums. Hey, uh,
Yeah,
um,
Joe, while you were talking, I just, I found this button that I could
wow,
overlay a Boston
yeah.
Red Sox hat on top of that. I don't even know what that is on the top of your head. And I was,
This
I was,
is the hat that was worn by the All-Star Game MVP. Thank you very much. So
sorry for pulling you off track. You got me this new toy. You're wearing a Yankees
it's
hat.
cool. I understand. I would like to say I didn't wear this hat on purpose, but I think even if that was the case, you wouldn't believe me. So YouTube Music, you can like watch YouTube videos without actually watching the videos, and then with YouTube Premium, right? If you have Premium, one of the things that you can do on iOS devices is keep listening to videos even after you close the app, right? Um, these two things more than anything tell me like Google is putting or YouTube is putting more effort into audio only content. And so, yeah, we don't have a fully fleshed out plan yet. We have like what I don't even know who said it in the beginning. The like one of the VPs over at YouTube in the beginning of the year said like, yes, podcasting is on their radar, and they want to help podcasters, but we don't have a fully fleshed out plan yet. I think the biggest takeaway though is if you're not already putting your show on YouTube, put it on YouTube.
The big question I get, we're going to get to this topic of pivoting as a podcaster and what you've done both for the content and the business. Big question that I get all the time, I'm sure you get it too, at Castos is, hey, do we just upload our audio to YouTube? Do I start with recorded video? It's a daunting question already because it's like everyone asks it. I'm already like feeling the weight of it as I just say it
Yeah.
to you out loud. What's your take on like, do you encourage people to just say, yeah, just do it like we all say? Or do you properly say, if you're going to do video, start with good, like technically start with good audio so we have that down? But do you encourage people to spend the bigger bucks? And by bigger bucks, like I think you can get away with stuff being around $1,000 to $1,500 these days, which I know is expensive for a lot of people, but also 5 years ago it would probably be like 8 grand to build like
Right.
to build this simple one camera view that you and I both have right now with lighting and a camera. What's your take on like technically setting up video, or do you walk people out of doing video if they literally can't perform with good video?
Yeah. So first, I always say, let's make it as easy as possible for you to start. And generally, that means, you know what? Let's forego video for now. Um, said to people for a long time, like, unless you're making compelling video content with for your podcast, it doesn't, you don't need to upload the video. Um, and so if you have 10, 15, 20 episodes, I have almost 300. None of them have video associated with them. I just put them on YouTube because I'm making the bet that YouTube is going to have this focus on audio only. Um, and so I think that that's one question. If you're podcasting and you're like, video is really daunting to me, if I need to do video, I don't want to podcast anymore, don't even worry about the video. If you do want compelling YouTube content on top of compelling podcast content, yeah, I think you need to invest. And something that I have been um, trying out and testing is the Opal C1. Um, it's a $300 4K camera that they are claiming is as good as a DSLR. You saw my DSLR, right? I don't think it's the same. I don't think they're of equal quality, but and this is something I'm only doing for the Castos live stream. Compared to my studio display, it's a lot crisper, right? It's a lot brighter. There are fewer the vacuums in the background. Um, and so like that compared to the built-in, you get a 4K pretty quality camera. You can get this dialed in, right? They have an app where you can get it dialed in, and like my lighting is probably a little bit weird. So like if I like brighten it, the picture probably looks a little bit better now, and I've got like bokeh turned on or whatever. But um, I guess the whole point of all of this is you don't need what I have. Most people don't. I'm just like really into it. You can spend $300 on a camera and start making quality video content.
Darren in the chat says audio only with a static image on YouTube didn't work well for us. We had to go full video for any traction. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's going to be, what your goals are. If you're looking to grow the YouTube, like if you're looking to grow the YouTube channel in tandem with the podcast, which I guess many of us are, then yeah, that focused effort, and maybe there's a more conservative approach where you're sort of betting that Google's eventually going to do something with your YouTube channel and podcasting, and then you do what Joe does. Castos can automatically publish your show right to a specific playlist. It's just going to use the static image as of right now, but that's a more conservative approach. Hey, I know they're going to do something with audio in the future, so let's just get it up there. Really depends on what those goals are. Speaking of the camera things, go ahead, Joe.
Sorry, yeah, I just think that's probably right now why YouTube's recommending have one playlist for all of your episodes, right? Because they're not saying, hey, if you just put your episodes on YouTube, they'll do well, right? They're saying put your episodes in one playlist, put clips in another. Those clips probably are going to be more dynamic videos, talking heads and things like that. But what they're not saying at this point is if you want your channel to grow today, you also need those non-podcast episode videos that maybe supplement your podcast. I think that's probably the quiet part that they're not saying out loud right now.
One other technical thing before we move on to a little bit more of your story on the back half of this show. And I know you're a huge sort of iOS Mac fan, to say the least. I think with iOS 16, you'll be able to use the camera, use the phone as the web camera. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So in iOS 16 and then macOS Ventura, which is the latest version of macOS, they've made changes to the continuity camera. So there's a feature right now where like you could take a picture with your iPhone and then it automatically gets added to like your keynote presentation, which is I'm sure just a feature that's killing it for them. But what they've decided to do now is if you're again like your iPhone is on the same iCloud account and the same Wi-Fi network and close enough, and then in a horizontal position, like a fixed horizontal position, it will make your iPhone available as a webcam. The most bananas part of this is it actually gives you two views. It gives you the straight on view, and then it gives you a desk view using the wide angle camera and machine learning. where they give you an overhead view of your desk. I don't know how useful that's going to be for podcasters, but I'm pretty excited because I like to do like some sketching on my live streams, and up until this point, it's been like a like just like duct tape and chewing gum to try to get a good view where I can also use my desk. So it's wild. I'm working on a piece. Um, I'm working on a piece for the podcast host on that when it actually rolls out.
Nice. I'm trying to build the scene. I wanted to share my desktop, but I just shared my face looking up my nose with my built-in webcam on my laptop. Over on TechCrunch, Apple's continuity camera lets you use your iPhone as a webcam. Check out that article if you want to see more of that. So let's just talk about this pivot. You're making you and I both know each other from, of course, the WordPress world. We co-authored a podcasting book many years ago. That's sort of our first joint venture. We used to live stream a lot.
I recommended the Blue Yeti. I'm probably gonna get canceled for that, right? Like,
hey, listen, one of the top videos on this Castos channel is me demonstrating how to just use the Yeti more properly. I'm not saying it's going to make it sound better with a bunch of stuff, but it's going to make it sound better than 90% of the people who put it 8 feet away from them on the desk. Yeah. You know, as
turn
like
up the gain, have the polar pattern to be like every direction or whatever.
Right. But you and I both know each other from the WordPress world. We both create WordPress content outside of podcast content. But let's just start with that. You are making a hard pivot, or at least that's the way that I understood it, is you're making a hard pivot with at least one of your WordPress shows, and like really going to turn that more into the creator economy and maybe podcasters. How else are you thinking of, okay, I used to create all like this technical content. Now I really want to double down on this podcasting thing. And then we'll bring that into how you creatively pivot into making those shows.
Yeah. So somebody asked me about this recently, like, why am I pivoting? And honestly, it's just, I've really been enjoying the podcasting stuff. The way I described it, well, and this is not like a dump on WordPress session, right? We have those privately. But it's the difference between having to convince somebody that I know what I'm talking about to sell my services versus having to convince somebody that my services are worth paying for, if that makes sense, right? So instead of somebody saying, like, somebody in the creator space will say, well, like, how can you help me make $10,000 with my podcast? And I'll be like, oh, well, I've started a bunch of podcasts and 3 of them were sponsored without any downloads. And so I'll give you my framework and a few other ways. Where in the WordPress space, my experience is, why should I pay you to do this when I can do it myself? And I'm like, I don't have time to teach you like the value of time versus money, right? So that's the reasoning behind my pivot a little bit. My WordPress podcast is, I'm a little bit on the hook for it, right? It's sponsored through the end of the year, and so I need to, well, I don't, yes, I need to keep creating content for it. And I want this to fit into my overall plan of, I'm talking to creators and podcasters, and I'm doing less technically WordPress stuff. So my goal is, no matter what piece of content of mine somebody consumes, I want them to get the idea that I'm the podcast guy and not the WordPress guy. This is going to be hard. I have books published about how to develop websites and develop with WordPress. So it's like, and I'm still actively making LinkedIn Learning courses, but for the content I control, that's my goal. And so WordPress is still an important part of the creator economy. It's really important it could be really important for podcasters. And so that's the lens through which I'm creating my content now.
Yeah, and it's the WordPress thing is still like it's right alongside content creators, if not like the heartbeat of a lot of written content, landing pages, e-commerce, all of that stuff. How did you, as a podcaster, how did you announce it to the listeners, right? How does one, like, somebody might be listening to this and like, yeah, I want to make either a hard pivot or a slight pivot. To me, like, I've always pivoted my show and like the folks that I interview and maybe like the core concept of things. And I've always just looked at it as like, hey man, like this is my artwork. It's just gonna be this like air quotes creative ride as we move along. Just expect that I'll be talking about stuff, and I just slowly introduce like new concepts. Did you? And I know you're like much more tactical than I am. Like you spreadsheet, you Airtable, you automate, and I'm just like, I don't do any of that. I just have my to-do list, and I'm just like crank a bunch of stuff on a to-do list. What was your approach for the tactic?
I did what everybody does, which is I tweet that I'm leaving the WordPress space forever, and that it's better for my mental health, and then I have a big blog post about it, right? No, I didn't do any of that. In a recent episode about the creator economy, I basically said this show is probably going to focus more on that because I'm trying to move outside of the WordPress space as far as the day-to-day industry analysis stuff goes. My preference is to not pay attention to the news of the day in WordPress anymore. I'm trying to pay attention to the news of the day in podcasting. And so instead, and if you're deeply embedded, right? I mean, this is just a sidetrack. If I'm deeply embedded in what's going on in WordPress, I don't think I could adequately help creators or understand where creators. I can't adequately empathize with them. I don't think. So I'm taking a step back, and just kind of as a result, I'll be talking about more about the WordPress and the creator economy and how WordPress can help creators. And so there's still like pretty strong opinion pieces. My latest one was like basically a 10-minute audio response to like a single tweet that this guy sent. But it was very focused on the importance of creators in the WordPress space.
From the business standpoint, let's like mentally wrap our heads around the tweet that you put out today. Hey, somebody knocks on the door. I used to do web development. It was hard to say no. How else have you either coped, or did you wait to start building up revenue on the podcast side first to make that landing a little bit softer? Like what can you tell people who literally have to say no to money, which is like the hardest thing to do as one transitions from like one like one focus to the next? How was your approach to that from like the business and product side?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to make sure that I had runway. So if I don't make any money for the next 3 months, am I going to have to close my doors or whatever? Um, I want to say luckily, I don't know if it was luckily though. I was kind of running both businesses in tandem for a couple of years. Um, but I really think that hurt me. And here's why. In May, I finally decided, all right, I'm only focusing on podcasting now. I'm getting out of the WordPress space. As in I'm not going to be participating in WordPress stuff, right? I tested a major release launch, so I got to contribute that way. I didn't get my props though. No, I'm just kidding. I think I did. Sorry, Tanya, if you're watching this, I definitely did get props. And so since then, I've been focusing my content there. I've been making connections there. I've been joining communities that help that mission. And I've made a bunch more money consulting. Like this month is going to be a really good month for me, and I have made no web design money. It's been sponsor money. It's been, kind of residuals from previous courses. I guess you can count that as web design money, so a little bit. But I landed 3 coaching clients this month, which is just baffling to me. Because I was like, all right, one per month for the next 6 months is probably good while I build up my authority in the space. And so I think that I probably should have started earlier, and I'd maybe be better positioned now. But the best day to plant a tree is yesterday, right?
Yeah. And that's always the case. I mean, I say always, but those are the things that happen once you start doubling down on that core focus. Mentally, I mean, I know the struggles of WordPress and how like creating content in that space can burn you out. But mentally, like just focusing on or largely focusing on one area, at least maybe 80 to 90% of the content that you provide, I mean, mentally, that's probably feels pretty good, which allows you to create better content. And at least that's how I would feel about it. I don't know if you feel the same way, but what did it do for you mentally, spiritually, to be like, you know what, this is the persona I want to go after? What was that aha moment?
Yeah, it was honestly just a couple of weeks ago that it really happened for me, because my youngest is 6 months and she's in daycare now, and I have my full weeks back. And then like I had shipped my last LinkedIn Learning course until next month. Um, and so I was like, gosh, in all of July, I can focus on podcasting stuff. And again, I saw these immeasurable difference in my social media growth, my newsletter growth, people who were reaching out to me who were like, "Hey, can I pay you for your time to help me through this podcasting problem?" But as far as like kind of how it feels mentally, if you're watching or listening to this later, I want you to think about a chaotic day where you have to go from wake up to coffee to get the kids to bed, or to, oh, a client emailed me, oh, now I need to go run errands, oh, now I need to write this thing, oh, now I need to go pick up the kids, oh, now I need to do this. All of the context switching that you're doing in 8 hours, how drained you are after that. And then imagine trying to do that big picture in your business over the course of months or years. It's just really draining. Like 1 minute I'll be thinking about podcasting, and the next minute I'll be like, should I update my full site editing course? And now it's like, should I update my full site editing course? No. Next question. Like, nope, it's never going to get updated again. I got a bad review recently. Somebody was real mad that that it's not up to date. I'm sorry that you paid $50 for a course 2 years ago, and it's not up to date again.
Yeah.
But that's like I don't have to worry about that stuff. I think about solving one problem. How can I help podcasters make their first $10,000?
Yeah.
And it feels so good.
Yeah. But the work doesn't stop there, because now you have to diversify, right? So you have, like, before, maybe in your head, you're like, hey, I'm diversified because I got one leg in WordPress, one leg in podcasting. And now this is just me saying it. I don't know if this is true for you, but now you go look at the podcasting landscape, and then you say, whatever, membership, digital product, sponsorships, consulting. I don't know if there's a fifth thing there that you would add to that. But how do you start thinking about, what it takes to run because everyone, let me backtrack. Everyone wants to start a podcast and monetize it and make money with their podcast. Most of them do. Through any of those means, they want to do it. I assume that your strategy will be all four of them, but you're a seasoned, content producer, product maker, seller of things, speaker, etc. So how do you strategize with, let's say, a client to say, let's get this podcast going, let's get a sponsorship, and then let's do a community or a product? Like, how do you look at those four areas of monetization and like apply that to your own customers?
Yeah, great question. So I think probably a question we'll put a pin in, and if there's time later, right? Like, how am I personally diversifying within a single niche, right? Because there's a different answer for that. But the way I break down my framework for making money podcasting is the SMASH framework. It's sponsorship, membership, affiliates, selling products, and helping people. And that's like coaching, consulting, courses. So the first question I ask is, what's your mission statement? I don't think enough podcasters define a mission statement, right? They just kind of say, I'm going to start a podcast. Hey, we should start a podcast. And that is, I think, the first point of failure in creating a profitable podcast. Define your mission statement by saying, my product or my podcast helps these people, fill in the blank, solve this problem, fill in the blank, by, and then fill in the blank with solution. So with my Make Money Podcasting podcast, my podcast helps podcasters of any size make money from their podcast by showing them tried and true techniques for doing so. Um, and then every episode can revolve around that. Because of that, when you have your mission statement, maybe it's, well, I just want to put out really compelling content that's super shareable. Great. The best way for you to make money is probably through sponsorship. You want to get people who are really interested in the content and they are a captive audience, and now they're going to sponsor your show. Or maybe it's membership, right? Where people are really interested in this fictional true crime podcast that you're putting out, and they want the behind the scenes stuff. So they'll pay $10 a month to get that behind the scenes stuff. Or you have somebody who's like, listen, I want to build up my expertise. I've been in this space for a long time. I have a lot of insight that I haven't really shared. I want to do like 10, 15-minute episodes to help people solve X because I have repeatedly solved for X. Great. I don't think sponsorships is a great idea for you. You don't want anybody else encroaching on your expertise during your show. So instead, what you do is you create a killer lead magnet to get people onto your mailing list. And then they get dropped into your sales funnel where you sell them a course or one-on-one coaching. And this maybe takes a little bit longer, but the hockey stick graph is probably more applicable to you there, right? Where, okay, you're going along and people are signing up and they're not buying. But then after 6 months, now you're the guy or the gal in the space. And so now people want to pay for an hour of your time because they heard you talk about this thing on your podcast, and that's the exact problem that they're having. So it really depends on the mission statement of your show, and that's what I do with my clients.
Yeah, for sure. You know, it's it's always hard for me, and I'm curious. And maybe it's not hard for you. Maybe you have a secret. Maybe you have a great acronym that you use with your incoming podcast consulting customers. But like, they get to us and they think the hard work is getting the show out, creating the content, hitting the publish button, and then maybe scheduling a tweet or two to promote it. Like, the real hard work comes after that, is really if for those that are looking to like monetize or see some kind of result from it. And even if that result is, because God, I hear this all the time. I heard this on a podcast this morning, that yeah, you just start a podcast, and if you're a services business, you'll just get clients. Like, it's a great way. Yes, it is a great way to get referral business and get your name out there. But the hard part is continuing to do it and marketing it and getting it into the right ears so that those people can actually knock on your door. Like, it's just not magically going to happen. And that real hard work happens around the podcast. It's creating the product. It's creating the landing page. It's thinking about, okay, if I'm going to find this customer, I get them into my funnel. I have to set up a drip campaign. I have to think about the emails. There's just so much other stuff. And a lot of people don't want to hear it. And quite honestly, I don't want to say it because then it scares people away from podcasting, which brings us to a really big conversation is why people just love ads, because they can just go, I'll just press this button and make $5, you know?
Right.
And then they're just like, boy, making money on ads isn't that good. It's like, yeah, because you just gave up. It's like you just went easy mode. So yeah, easy mode, you make a little bit of money. Hard mode, you put in the work, and then you're like a Joe Casabona where you knock on the door and you sell them on your brand, and they pay 10x the industry average to advertise on your show. That was a soapbox moment for you, but and for all of us. But like, that's the hard stuff, and I'm just wondering if like how you bring people down to earth with that.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing that I think this is what separates, like, I think the real coaches and the professionals from the charlatans, right? They'll say, oh, it's so easy for you to make money, right? They open up their spreadsheet and they're like, how many listeners do you have? This is your CPM. So you just need to sell this much in ad revenue to make money. Or, oh, you want to make $5,000? Oh, that's just like 100 people at $50 a year for your podcast or whatever, right? I did the math, right?
Yep.
And so, that's like spreadsheet wish casting, right? When I sit down with people, I say, look, it's going to be hard, but maybe I'm dating myself here. I'm definitely dating myself here. But, there's that old World of Warcraft video where the guild or whatever it's called in World of Warcraft is coming up with a plan to beat this boss, and then Leroy Jenkins just runs in and gets everybody killed, gets himself killed, gets everybody killed. Most people today are the Leroy Jenkins of podcasting. You don't want to, if you want to make money with, like, if you just want to be like four guys talking about the All-Star game last night, like, fine, set up an Anchor account and just talk, and who cares, and no one's going to listen, and no one's going to give you money. But if you want this to be a legitimate revenue stream, yes, you need to plan. That's why you need to define your mission statement. That's why you need to think about, well, what is the best way for me to make money in the long term? Nothing is a get-rich-quick scheme, podcasting included. Maybe that's obvious. It should be obvious. But, it's just like YouTube. Like, oh, I want to make MKBHD money. No one makes MKBHD money except MKBHD.
Right.
He's been doing it for 12 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And he does it well. He does it well.
Awesome stuff, Joe Casabona. Congrats and good luck on the pivot.
Thank you.
It's a slight pivot. I mean, it's not like you've switched to base, like talking about the Yankees or something like that.
Right. Yeah,
it's a slight pivot.
That's a podcast only for my wife when we watch the game.
You'd have one subscriber. Oh, right. Press that button on the old Rodecaster. It's a $700 mute button, everybody.
Absolutely. I'm mad about it.
Oh, that'll be another live stream for another day, is why we spend money on tech that we just barely use. Anyway, Joe Casabona, casabona.org, castos.com. Where else can folks go, Joe, to connect with you?
Hey, if you're watching this on YouTube, just go ahead and click my name in the title, and it should take you to my channel. Or if you, I don't know if this is getting repurposed as a podcast episode,
possibly,
but if it is, How I Built It or Make Money Podcasting, those are my two podcasts.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thumbs up if you like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you want more. Like I said, you want to start a podcast, like you want to host a podcast, go to castos.com. You can create as many podcasts and as many episodes as you want for as little as $19. Joe, I don't know how to end this on this plane that I'm piloting. ECam
I could just hang up,
live. There it is.
There we go.
The old
button in the bottom there.
The old finish button. That's what I'm pressing.
Yep. I think I'll lose you. So bye, everybody.
See you later.